to be clear, I didn't deny the request. In the law, 12 members are required to have recognized party status in the House. So I was merely stating fact. In order to change that, it would require a broad consensus of the House of Commons, a consensus that I'm unaware exists as of this point. However, there have been a number of constructive conversations with Mr. Davies. I know he's had some with some of the other opposition parties. He certainly has with me. I'm very open to entertaining some of his more practical requests.
That is the government's House Leader Steve McKinnon earlier on this show talking about NDP official party status, or really lack thereof. Here to talk a bit more about the party and its direction during this sitting of the House of Commons on this first day back for MPs is the interim leader of the NDP, Don Davies. He's live with me here on Parliament Hill. Hi, Mr. Davies. It's good to see you. Thank you for making the time.
Good to be with you, Vashi.
I did want to start off on official party status. It sounds like the government is not prepared to facilitate a process that would allow for that. Do you understand the position that it would be a slippery slope if that precedent were to be set?
Well, yes and no. I mean, there's a couple different routes. What the NDP really wants is we're going to do our job no matter what. But we want the tools that will allow us to participate fully in Parliament. These are legislative research, communications resources that will help us do our job better. As you know, Vashi, Parliament is complex. It moves fast and it changes. And what we're looking for is the ability to bring the voices of 1.2 million Canadians to this House and to effectively participate in the affairs. So official party status is an elastic concept. It has been changed many times in provinces across this country. Conservatives to Liberals, Liberals to NDP, NDP to Greens, even CAC relaxed the number with Solidaire and with Parti Québécois. So it's something that can be worked with, but really what we're interested in is just getting the resources that we need to do our jobs better.
I ask this with great respect, but why does your party deserve them? Yes, there are 1.2 million Canadians who voted for you, but you had an 11-point-something% drop in the popular vote, the worst outcome seats-wise for your party since its inception. Like, why do you deserve parliamentary resources if you couldn't hit that number?
Because it's
or come close to it with respect.
Because it's a minority parliament. And in a minority parliament, every vote counts. And so when you've got a government that has 169 seats and they need 172, and we have 7 seats, very often our party is going to be called upon that to make the difference. And so for us to be able to understand what legislation is being called and when, I think is important to make this parliament function well. So it's a question of ensuring that all the parties in a minority parliament are able to discharge their responsibilities in a responsible way and make it function well. So that's why I think it's a little bit different now than in a majority parliament.
Is that true, though? Because I think of Elizabeth May, for example, and Mike Morris in the parliament that existed before. They were able to govern themselves and vote on legislation and understand what it's about without the resources that you're describing. So again, is this, like, I don't understand why you would need it and not them.
Well, the significance of them voting one way or another wasn't perhaps the falling of a government. It is in our case. I remember 1979, Joe Clark, where a government fell by accident. That can happen. And so in this case, if we want stability and we want a government that's functioning well, then we have to make sure parties are resourced appropriately. So I'd say that's one major difference. The other one is that the kind of resources we're talking about last year are things like, do we have access to the online voting dashboard so that this tracks when people are voting when they're traveling, and if you can tell or not whether someone has voted. These are things that I think just help us function better. They're not something that gives us a great advantage. It makes sure that we can cast our votes in a responsible way.
Minister McKinnon seemed open to the possibility of other stuff without, acquiescing on the point of official party status. Is it satisfactory to you? Like, would you be able to work with kind of an ad hoc system of what you just described?
Well, really what we're after are the tools that we need to do our job better. And
can you do that without official party status? Is a more succinct way of asking.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. There's different routes for this. Official party status is one way, but if that can't be done, then the Board of Internal Economy has the ability to allot legislative, research, communications resources to different parties. They control that. And in a minority parliament, there's give and take in negotiations. And so that's what we're seeking to be done.
You described your party today, and you did it once here as well, as like holding the balance of power. Is that really the case? I mean, they need 3 people from other parties to support them. The Conservatives have signaled on issues around the economy and U.S. trade, for example, they would. The Bloc has been even more forthright. François Blanchet has said, we basically have a truce and we'll support them, we'll keep them there for a year. Why does the government need the NDP at all?
Well, let me be very specific. We said that we have a balance of power, not the balance of power, a balance of power. So,
do you even have that, though, with the Bloc saying they'll do it for a year?
Sure we do. The NDP is the only party in the House of Commons, I think, that truly represents the interests of working people in this country. We're a party that was formed by working people, for working people, and the policies that we usually put forth are policies that no other party does. For instance, improving our healthcare system, having universal dental care, having universal pharmacare. That's not going to come from the Conservatives. It's not going to come from the Bloc Québécois. So
it came from the Liberals.
No, it came from the NDP.
But the Liberals implemented it under your influence, but they still implemented it, and then they got the credit for it.
No, because we demanded it. That's why they implemented it. They voted against those things when they were in majority government. So they did those things because the NDP demanded it and made it happen. So depending on the legislative agenda of this government, they will need the NDP for progressive legislation, unless Mr. Carney is not intending to govern in any progressive manner, which remains to be seen. But if he does want to, he's going to have to count on a national party who supports those policies, and that very well could be us.
How soon will your party select a permanent leader? You're serving in the capacity as interim leader. How soon is your party going to? How soon do they need to?
Well, in the first question, that is a question that's being discussed by our party right now. So our party officials have the responsibility to determine when the leadership race happens. There are some things that have to happen before that, including a good assessment of the previous campaign. And we've promised a visioning process for our members to help reimagine what a renewed progressive NDP offer looks like going forward. I think those are important building blocks that need to happen before we launch into a leadership review. So I think you're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 months or so, give or take. And how soon should they do it? Well, again, that's up to the party. But I do think.
What do you think, as somebody who lived through this election, how soon would you like to see the party have a new direction and a new leader?
Well, I do very strongly think that we need an honest, thorough assessment of where we've come from. And I really do think we need to reconnect with our grassroots membership and supporters and involve them in the reimagining of our party. So it's a bottom-up process, not a top-down process. And I think we need to take the time that's needed to get that done. I wouldn't rush that. So I think it depends on how fast we can get that going. And, I think if we reconnect with our membership and people across this country, then I think we will form the foundation of a much stronger New Democratic Party moving forward. And we've been in this position before, Vashi. We've come out of it before, and I think we can come out of it again.
I have to leave it on that note. Mr. Davies, a pleasure. Thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you, Vashi.